There are moments in life when everything seems still, too still. When prayers feel like echoes in an empty room, when your dreams look buried under the weight of disappointment, and when your faith seems stretched to its final thread. But I came to tell you today that silence isn't absence, that stillness is not defeat. It's the divine pause before a mighty move of God, because the same God who spoke light into darkness has not gone quiet in your story. The same God who split the Red Sea, who raised the dead, who broke prison chains, is about to move mightily in your life. You may not see it yet, but heaven has already issued your turnaround. There are seasons in life when the silence feels unbearable. You pray, but heaven seems quiet. You cry out for direction, but the only sound you hear is your own voice echoing in the stillness. You start wondering if God has forgotten you, if maybe your prayers aren't loud enough, or your faith isn't strong enough. But the truth is that silence is not absence, it's preparation. God moves after the silence, and what feels like delay is often the divine pause before something powerful. When you look through Scripture, you'll see that some of the greatest moves of God were preceded by moments of complete quiet. Before creation, there was darkness and void, nothing but silence. Then God spoke, and light burst forth. Before Jesus began his ministry, there were 400 years where God didn't speak to Israel. No prophets, no visions, no revelations. People thought God had turned away, but he was preparing the world for the greatest revelation of all, his Son. In every season of silence, heaven is setting the stage for a mighty move. It's in the quiet that God does his deepest work. When you can't hear him, that's when he's most often rearranging things behind the scenes. You may not see progress, but progress is happening. Seeds grow in silence, not in noise. The roots of a tree expand underground before its branches ever touch the sky. Likewise, your unseen seasons are the foundation for your visible breakthroughs. God is building strength, refining motives, and aligning people in ways you can't yet comprehend. He's not ignoring your prayers. He's answering them in a dimension you can't see. What looks like inactivity is divine intentionality. When Elijah prayed for rain, he sent his servant to look toward the sea. The first time, there was nothing. The second time, still nothing. But Elijah didn't stop praying. He sent the servant again and again until the seventh time when the servant said, "I see a cloud the size of a man's hand." That tiny cloud became a mighty storm. The silence wasn't a denial. It was the space where faith was tested and perseverance was proven. If God responded instantly, faith would never grow. It's in the silence that we learn to trust his timing over our impatience. The waiting builds spiritual muscle, and that's exactly what prepares us to carry the weight of the blessing that's coming. Many people lose heart because they mistake silence for rejection. But the truth is, silence is often a compliment. It means God trusts you with mystery. He believes you can handle not knowing everything, that you can still believe even when you can't feel him. The silence is a test of trust. It asks, will you worship me even when you can't see the promise? Will you stay faithful even when I seem far? If your answer is yes, then get ready, because silence is always followed by sound. There's a rhythm in God's movement. Silence, struggle, shift, and then suddenly. The disciples experienced it too. Between the crucifixion and the resurrection, there was a silent Saturday. No miracles, no angels, just confusion and grief. Yet that silence didn't mean God was done. It meant he was working underground in the unseen realm of victory. On the third day, the silence broke with resurrection power. That same power is coming for you. The silence you're enduring is not the end of your story. It's the setup for your sudden breakthrough. So if God feels quiet right now, don't panic. He's not ignoring you. He's aligning you. Every unanswered prayer, every quiet night, every tear that falls unseen is watering the soil for your miracle. You are being refined, not rejected. When the silence breaks, it will make sense. The doors that didn't open will suddenly swing wide. The prayers that seemed forgotten will come to pass. The dream that looked dead will come alive, because God always moves after the silence. And when he does, it's mighty, unmistakable, and worth every moment you waited. Waiting is one of the hardest seasons in the walk of faith. It's that place where your heart believes, but your eyes see nothing. It's where you've prayed the same prayer over and over, yet there's no visible change. You watch others receive their breakthrough, and you wonder when your turn will come. But what if I told you that the waiting season is not wasted, that every minute of delay is a divine investment into your destiny? God never wastes time. Every second you spend waiting is part of a larger plan designed to prepare, mature, and position you for what he has already planned to give you. When God makes you wait, it's not because he's forgotten you, it's because he's forming you. The waiting is where he molds your heart, strengthens your faith, and purifies your motives. It's easy to praise when everything is happening, but the true test of faith is to trust when nothing seems to be. The waiting teaches you endurance. It teaches you to lean on God's timing instead of your own, because if you receive something too soon, it could crush you instead of bless you. God delays not to deprive you, but to develop you. Think of Joseph. He had a dream at 17 that he would rise to greatness. But before that dream became reality, he was betrayed, sold, falsely accused, and forgotten in prison. For over 13 years, Joseph waited. He probably thought the dream was dead, but what looked like delay was actually training. God was teaching him leadership, humility, and dependence. By the time Joseph stood before Pharaoh, he wasn't just a dreamer. He was a man of wisdom and character. And in one day, God fulfilled what had been forming in secret for years. The waiting season was not wasted. It was the womb of preparation. When you're waiting, it's easy to become restless, to question if you heard God right, to think maybe you missed his will. But that's when faith has to anchor deeper. Waiting doesn't mean God is doing nothing. It means he's doing something you can't yet see. It's like when a seed is planted. You don't see growth above the soil right away, but underneath, roots are forming, expanding, and preparing to sustain the plant when it finally breaks through. If you dig it up too soon, you destroy what's growing. The same is true with your life. God's roots are developing under the surface. Don't uproot what he's building because of impatience. Sometimes the waiting is the protection you didn't know you needed. Maybe the door hasn't opened yet because God is still arranging the right connections. Maybe the relationship didn't work out because he's saving you from heartbreak. Maybe the job hasn't come through because he's aligning something bigger. What looks like delay is often divine redirection. God knows the exact moment to release what you've been praying for. And when he does, it will not be late. It will be perfect. Waiting also exposes where your hope truly lies. If your faith is only strong when you see results, then it's rooted in outcomes, not in God. But when you can wait with peace, when you can trust him even when nothing moves, that's when your faith becomes unshakable. That's when God can trust you with more. Because true faith says, even if I don't see it yet, I still believe it's coming. That kind of faith moves heaven. So don't despise your waiting season. Worship through it. Pray through it. Grow through it. This is the season where God refines your vision and strengthens your spirit for the weight of the blessing ahead. Every tear, every unanswered prayer, every long night, it's all working together for good. When the appointed time comes, the waiting will make sense. You'll look back and say, now I see why it took that long, because what God is preparing for you is not small, it's mighty. The waiting season is not wasted. It's the place where miracles are born. When God is getting ready to do something new in your life, he often begins by shaking what's familiar. The shaking can feel uncomfortable, confusing, and even painful. Suddenly, the people you depended on drift away, doors that once opened easily begin to close, and plans that made perfect sense start falling apart. You might wonder, why is everything shifting? Why does it feel like I'm losing control? But the truth is, before God moves, he removes. Before he elevates you, he separates you. The shaking isn't to destroy you, it's to prepare you. God shakes what's unstable so that what remains is unshakable. We see this pattern throughout Scripture. Before God took Abraham into a new land, he told him, leave your country, your relatives, and your father's house. Abraham had to walk away from the familiar to step into the promise. Before Joseph stepped into his destiny, he was stripped of his coat, sold by his brothers, and thrown into prison. Before David became king, he had to leave the comfort of his home and face giants in the wilderness. Every great move of God begins with a shaking, a divine disturbance that forces you out of comfort and into calling. The shaking is God's way of making room for his glory. Sometimes you can't see what he's doing because he's uprooting what can't stay. Maybe you've been holding on to something that's expired, a relationship that drains you, a job that limits you, a mindset that no longer fits where you're going. God will allow a shaking to remove what's hindering your growth. He's not punishing you, he's pruning you. In John 15, Jesus said that every branch that bears fruit is pruned so it can bear even more fruit. That means even the fruitful seasons may face divine trimming. But pruning isn't loss, it's preparation for abundance. When God starts to shift your environment, it's because he's calling you higher. He's getting ready to move mightily, but he can't pour new wine into old wineskins. Old patterns, old thinking, and old habits can't carry the next level of blessing. So he disrupts the comfort. He shakes the foundation. He challenges your dependence on the familiar. Because if he didn't, you would settle for what's safe instead of stepping into what's supernatural. Every shaking has purpose, and that purpose is transformation. During the shaking, your first instinct might be to hold tighter to what's slipping away. But if you trust God's hand in the process, you'll realize that what he removes is nothing compared to what he's preparing. Sometimes what feels like rejection is actually redirection. The people who walked away weren't meant to walk with you into your next chapter. The opportunities that closed off were never designed for your destiny. God knows what you can't see, and his shaking is saving you from staying stuck. Even nature teaches us this truth. Before a tree grows taller, storms come and shake its branches, but that shaking drives the roots deeper. It strengthens the tree, making it able to stand stronger when new growth appears. The same is true for you. The shaking you feel right now is deepening your faith, anchoring your hope, and fortifying your trust. God is strengthening your foundation so that when his mighty move comes, you'll be able to handle the blessing without breaking. So don't fear the shaking. Don't panic when things start to shift. What you perceive as loss is often God making room. He shakes to awaken, he removes to restore, and he disrupts to deliver. If everything around you seems unstable, take heart. It's a sign that heaven is up to something. The shaking means God is near. It means he's clearing the path for his power to manifest. Soon, you'll see that what was taken away was only making space for something greater, because before every mighty move of God, there must first come a shaking. And when the shaking stops, what will remain in your life will be stronger, purer, and ready to carry his glory. When God is about to move in your life, he often waits for your obedience to open the door. Faith without obedience is potential without power. You can believe all you want, but until your belief is followed by action, the miracle remains in waiting. Throughout Scripture, obedience is the bridge between promise and manifestation. It's not enough to just hear the word. You have to act on it, even when it doesn't make sense, because divine instruction often looks illogical until after the miracle happens. God will ask you to move before the waters part, to give before you receive, to speak before you see. And those who obey, even when it's hard, are the ones who witness the mighty move of God. When Jesus turned water into wine at the wedding in Cana, he gave the servants a strange command: fill the jars with water. They could have questioned it. They could have reasoned that guests needed wine, not water. But they didn't argue, they obeyed. And as they poured, the water transformed. That's the power of obedience. It turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. The miracle didn't start when Jesus spoke. It started when they acted. In the same way, many of us are waiting for God to move, while God is waiting for us to obey. The moment you move in faith, heaven responds. Obedience doesn't always feel comfortable. Sometimes God will ask you to do something that challenges your logic or stretches your comfort zone. He might tell you to forgive someone who hurt you deeply, to step away from a secure job, to start something new when the timing feels wrong, or to give when your resources are low. But obedience isn't about comfort, it's about trust. You don't have to understand God's instruction to obey it. You just have to trust his character. If he's asking you to move, it's because he's already gone before you to prepare the way. The story of Peter walking on water is another powerful example. When Peter saw Jesus walking toward him on the sea, he said, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come." And Jesus said one word, "Come." Peter could have stayed in the boat where it was safe. The waves were rough, the wind was strong, and stepping out made no sense, but he obeyed. The moment he moved, the water became solid under his feet. His obedience created a path where there was none. God didn't calm the storm first. He gave Peter the power to walk through it. That's what obedience does. It invites the supernatural into your situation. The truth is, obedience often precedes understanding. You won't always see the full picture when God tells you to act. Abraham didn't know where he was going when God told him to leave his homeland, but his obedience became the foundation of a nation. Naaman, the leper, was told to dip 7 times in the Jordan River to be healed. He almost walked away because it seemed foolish. But when he finally obeyed, his skin was restored. Miracles manifest on the other side of obedience. Sometimes delayed obedience is disobedience. When you hesitate, when you try to negotiate with God, you delay your own breakthrough. Every moment of obedience carries divine timing. When you move as God directs, even if it's uncomfortable, you align yourself with heaven's schedule. What you're praying for might already be released. It's just waiting for your obedience to unlock it. So if God has been nudging your heart to act, to step, to speak, to surrender, do it. Don't wait for perfect clarity. Don't wait for the storm to calm. Move when he says move. Because faith that moves heaven is faith that moves first. When you act in obedience, you tell God, I trust you more than my understanding. And that kind of trust releases divine power. The door you've been praying about might open the moment you take your next step. Your miracle is not in the promise. It's in the obedience that activates it. The battles you've been facing lately are not random. The warfare around your life is not coincidence. It's confirmation. The greater the warfare, the greater the move of God that's coming. When the enemy sees what God is about to release in your life, he tries to stop it before it manifests. The intensity of your battle is a prophetic sign that breakthrough is near. You're not being attacked because you're weak or forgotten. You're being attacked because you're carrying something powerful. Hell doesn't waste energy on empty vessels. The enemy fights what threatens him, and the anointing on your life terrifies him. Look at the story of Job. Job wasn't attacked because he had sinned. He was attacked because he was favored. God himself said, there is no one on earth like my servant Job. His integrity, his faith, and his devotion made him a target. And yet, in the end, Job received double for all he lost. His warfare was the doorway to his increase. The same is true for you. The attacks you face are not a sign that God has abandoned you. They're proof that something great is on the horizon. The closer you get to breakthrough, the harder the opposition becomes. The enemy attacks hardest when he knows he's running out of time. When you start walking in purpose, you will notice pressure from every side. But that pressure is not punishment, it's preparation. Diamonds are created under extreme pressure. Oil flows only when olives are crushed. Wine comes from grapes being pressed. Likewise, the greatness God placed in you can only emerge through pressure. Every trial, every heartbreak, every betrayal has been shaping you for what's ahead. The warfare is making you stronger, wiser, and more dependent on God. You're being refined through the fire, not destroyed by it. What the enemy meant for harm, God is using for good. Even Jesus faced intense warfare before his greatest victory. In the wilderness, the enemy tried to tempt him to give up his mission. On the cross, hell unleashed its full force against him. But every attack served a purpose. The wilderness prepared him, and the cross positioned him. Without the warfare, there would be no resurrection. Without the battle, there would be no crown. So don't despise your fight. It's evidence that victory is close. The attacks are loud because your destiny is loud. The enemy only fights when he's afraid of what's coming. Sometimes we ask God to remove the battle, but he uses the battle to reveal his strength in us. You may feel like you're surrounded, but in truth, you're surrounded by God's power. Every time you choose to stand firm, pray harder, and worship through pain, you are reminding hell that your faith cannot be broken. The warfare is testing your endurance, but it's also proving your authority. You were never meant to run from the storm. You were built to command it. When you resist the enemy, he has no choice but to flee. Remember, God never allows warfare without purpose. Every trial carries a lesson. Every challenge carries an upgrade. When the storm passes, you'll be stronger than before. The things that once scared you will no longer have power over you. The attacks that were meant to destroy you will become testimonies that encourage others, because every warrior must face a war before wearing a crown. You can't have a story of victory without a battle that tested your faith. So if the warfare has been intense, take heart. It's a sign that God is moving mightily in your life. You're not losing, you're leveling up. The opposition you're facing is only confirmation that your next season will be powerful. The enemy wouldn't fight so hard if your future wasn't bright. Stand your ground, stay faithful, and keep pressing forward. Because after the warfare comes the wind of victory, and after the pain comes the power. The greater the warfare, the greater the move of God that's about to break through your life. When God decides to move in your life, he doesn't move halfway. His power doesn't bring partial blessings. It brings complete transformation. The move that's coming your way is not going to be ordinary. It will be personal, specific, and undeniable. God knows exactly where you are, what you've been through, and what you've prayed for in secret. He's not sending a general blessing. He's writing your name on a miracle that fits your exact situation. What's coming is tailored by his hand. And when it arrives, no one will be able to doubt that it was him. In the story of Lazarus, when Jesus came to the tomb, he didn't just shout, "Come forth," to a crowd. He called Lazarus by name. That means the miracle was intentional. It wasn't for everyone around. It was for one person at the right moment. And when Lazarus came out, it wasn't just his story that changed. Everyone who witnessed it experienced the glory of God. That's how God moves. When he blesses you, it won't only transform your life, it will overflow and touch those connected to you. Your family, your relationships, your business, your ministry, everything attached to you will rise with you. There are moments in life when you can sense something shifting in the unseen. You can't explain it, but you feel it deep in your spirit, a stirring, a restlessness, and a divine anticipation. That's often how God begins his personal move. Before you see it with your eyes, you'll feel it in your spirit. The doors start aligning. Peace begins to replace panic, and situations you thought were permanent begin to change. It's not coincidence. It's God moving pieces into place. He's setting the stage for something that bears his fingerprints. The reason the move will be mighty is because it's been delayed. Sometimes God holds back what you've been praying for, not because he doesn't want to give it, but because he wants to make it undeniable when it comes. If he moved too soon, people would think it was your doing. If he moved in your timing, it might look like coincidence. But when he moves in his timing, it's so clear that everyone will have to say, that had to be God. The move will silence your doubters, vindicate your faith, and confirm every promise he ever made to you. This next move of God won't just bless you materially. It will shift your identity. You'll see yourself the way he always saw you, chosen, equipped, and anointed. The things that used to intimidate you will no longer have power over you. The fears that once kept you frozen will lose their grip. Because when God moves mightily, he doesn't just change your situation. He changes you. He brings restoration to every part of your life that was broken. And he breathes purpose into the places that felt forgotten. God's move is always personal because he's a relational God. He's not distant. He's involved. He knows your tears, your questions, and your pain. Every hidden struggle, every lonely night, every whispered prayer.